Welcome back as we take a look at WNBA Thursday nights with the W only on Prime. A great slate of WNBA matchups each Thursday night throughout the 2023 WNBA season. Starting, of course, tonight, May 25th, as the Minnesota Lynx head to the Valley of the Sun to take on the Phoenix Mercury. You can catch that action and much more WNBA action every Thursday night. But Lynx Mercury tonight, that'll be a good one. Brittany Griner and the Mercury looking to get their first win against the Minnesota Lynx. Still also looking to get their first win in the very young WNBA season that is this year. What do you think? Who's your pick?
Boy, in that game specifically, like we talked about it before, the Mercury they have the experience, they have the size, but you can never count out, right? That's what you play. It's very, very early. Both of these teams looking for their first win. You just look at both the Western and Eastern Conference, the Sun and the Sky up number 1 and 2 in the Eastern, and the Aces and Sparks number 1 and 2 in the West. That's kind of how we thought. The Liberty aren't 1 and 1, but again, still very early.
You don't want to peak too soon, right?
Yeah, I just want to see the fact that the first home game that the Mercury had was the most watched WNBA game ever. Hopefully, the one on Prime will be right up there with the most watched WNBA game ever as well.
Yeah, we love the viewership numbers that we're seeing for the WNBA, and love what we're seeing in that as well as we turn our attention now to another big sporting event this weekend. Of course, the men's lacrosse Final Four getting underway. A lot of strong matchups, and we are thrilled to be joined now by Virginia men's lacrosse head coach Lars Tiffany, who joins the show. Bonjour, Lars. How are you feeling?
Bonjour. I think I'm more thrilled to be on this show. Look at this. Madeline and Reed, this is excited about a Monty tumor. This is so cool.
This is so cool. Lars, I mean, you've got a great matchup looming, of course, taking on Notre Dame this weekend. You've said pressure is a privilege, but we want to be the pressure. What do you mean by that as your Cavaliers head into this Final Four?
Sure, all of us athletes, as we enter competition, and many humans in many other endeavors where it really matters, where you really care about the performance or the result, we start building that pressure inside. And there's a healthy amount of pressure, that healthy amount of anxiety to know that this is important, this is real, it heightens your awareness, and you're ready to react and compete. But there's gets that unhealthy moment. So we talk about this pressure is a privilege, that anxiety, that the nerves you're feeling. You embrace that. You choose to come to the University of Virginia to play men's lacrosse because you want to be on the biggest stage. So cut it loose, let it all hang out, enjoy the moment and squeeze it. And then we turn it to the next level. We are the pressure. Apply the pressure to our opposition and be relentless with that pressure.
Now you're going to be a team that's going to have won 3 titles in 4 years. The only other team to do that was Princeton back in 1988. How do you deal with that pressure? How do you, and what did you do to turn this program around? Because before you got there, there was a long stretch of where UVA wasn't as prominent as it is now. How did you turn it around, and what are some of the key attributes that you use to get your team over the top?
Well, first of all, Amani, I appreciate you asking that question because there had to be a turnaround. But I took over for Dom Starzer. Dom Starzer is one of the best coaches in the game of college lacrosse and one of the best recruiters ever. But the last couple of years, it was probably time for a change. And for me, I needed to bring in the type of man who was willing to sacrifice off the field, whether that meant extra work on their own when nobody's watching, but also what you weren't doing on Saturday nights and what you weren't doing on Wednesday nights, to making that strong of a commitment to being something bigger. But it takes the sacrifice, and you know all the distractions you have, especially in college. There's so many things that you could be doing that are distracting you from your mission of being a great teammate, a trusted teammate. And so we made some tough decisions those first couple of years. Sean Crow and Kip Turner and myself cut 7 or 8 men who just weren't willing to jump on the right bus. And then others transformed themselves. And then it was a talent acquisition process. Change what you can, but then bring in the men who have that right mindset, who are willing to be held to a higher standard than just about any other college lacrosse program. Maybe not West Point and Navy and Air Force, but really, really high standard for your decision making and your behaviors. And because we are committed to being at the top of the mountain, and it's hard. It's lonely being at the top. We've been fortunate to be there twice, and hopefully we'll be there a third time.
And Coach, you had 3 players drafted in the PLL just a couple of weeks ago, yet they're still on the team. So how is that dynamic? And as a coaching staff, do you have to do anything differently to make sure, like, hey, you know your future is already set, but we still have goals and aspirations in this moment?
Yeah, isn't that really cool? You're drafted, but you're still a part of your college program. It doesn't change too much for us. The PLL is an exceptional league run by the Rabels. You don't become a millionaire overnight, and so you're still going to be sort of working check to check when you get out of here. And it's a great honor, certainly for Xander Dixon, for Petey LaSala, and for Thomas McConvey. But there's other distractions out there, and my objective, just as I was talking about the social distractions, is to eliminate those and focus back in on here. NIL, the name, image, likeness, and those individual contracts of guys, those could be a distraction, but we've been able to eliminate those as well. Again, though, I will admit, in the sport of lacrosse, we're not talking 6 or 7 figure deals. Our deals are more 4 or 5 figure deals.
I mean, Coach, you talk about distractions, and I know one distraction that's looming, I think, for a lot of lacrosse fans is the salivating over the idea of a Virginia-Duke final, right? Of course, you've got a great matchup up next against Notre Dame, but this Duke rivalry has been going on for a while. Duke's won the last 17 consecutive regular season meetings back to 2004. Virginia knocked off Duke in 2019 in the playoffs. Is it hard to keep your team focused on the task at hand with that potential storybook ending to the season on deck?
Fortunately, we have Grayson Soliday as our captain, along with Connor Schellenberger, Cade Sawstad, and Cole Castor. I've got some real good veteran leadership, and these guys are seasoned. They get it. They understand. There is no rematch with Duke, unless we can beat Notre Dame again. We've beaten Notre Dame twice this year. Can we beat them a third time? And that's a huge challenge in front of us because Notre Dame's lost to no one else, in the last 21 or 22 games they've played, except to the University of Virginia. So we know they're very formidable. It's interesting, though. You go into one game where is it hard to beat a team 3 times? I'm hoping to say no. And then the next game we played Duke, and they've beaten us twice, and it's really hard to beat a team 3 times.
Yeah, you gotta put your all the eggs in your basket always and when you're trying to motivate your team. But when you motivate your team, you do something very interesting every year. You have them read a book. And what book is that? I'm very big into Audible, and I would love to get another fine book on my lexicon, the stuff that I have to listen to. What book is it, and why do you do that?
Oh, Monty, now you're really sugaring me. Now you're asking me about my book. This is what I love. We are on Legacy. This semester we're doing Legacy by James Kerr. It's about the New Zealand All Blacks rugby team, and it's a great leadership book. And it's really built to sort of help the boss, the corporate leader, the coach, provide opportunities to engage and talk with your men or staff or employees. We do try to do a book a semester. And so, the goal is if I get 8 or 9 good books, you as an athlete for me will never see the same book twice over your 4 to 5 year career. And so we've had some good ones. We did Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield about the Battle of Thermopylae in the fall semester. And we're doing Legacy now. And what we're about to hand the men once the season ends this weekend is The Boys in a Boat, one of the best books ever. And so that'll be the summer reading that then we will focus on during the fall semester. And what it gives us an opportunity to is, almost weekly, we meet as a team for 25 to 30 minutes, and we break up into what we call families, groups of 4 or 5 men, and we discuss the reading, and it always comes back to what are the parallels between the lessons, the obstacles faced by the people of this book versus what we're facing here in the University of Virginia Men's Lacrosse program. And it gives us that platform to express ourselves, to talk about those issues that sometimes you don't have time in the 2 minutes at the end of a practice and you're like, all right, hands in. It's really allowed us to open up and to be a bit vulnerable, honestly, and to reveal ourselves what our objectives are. And I think that's really been big in terms of the social transformation and the physical transformation of the commitment to one another, to being united and indomitable.
Yeah, and just from a mental aspect, you're starting something and then you're finishing it. You're learning something outside of maybe the sport that will help you holistically. I love that. And your approach is very holistic. And you've been often seen before games waving around a Native American long pole. And you've been adamant about knowing the history and being vocal about the history of the sport. Why is that? Tell me more on how that inspires you and why it's so important to share the history of the sport.
Yeah, well, you guys are doing your research. I appreciate this. I was fortunate to grow up in Syracuse, New York, right adjacent to the Onondaga Nation. They're one of the 6 tribes of the Iroquois, who we now know better known as the Haudenosaunee. And so I grew up playing this game and learning this game from Onondaga people, from Native Americans who are still the best of friends. I spent last weekend when we beat Georgetown up in Albany. Brad Powlis and Joe Solomon joined me, and so the values of this game are connected more to a spirituality than any other game. You know, I like to joke that we say that SEC football is like a religion. Well, the game of lacrosse really is a religion. It's more connected to the spirituality and the religion of a people than any other game on this planet. And so it's really about a way of thinking and the values that it brings forth, and really being in tune with nature, the reciprocal relationship that we have with nature, which has gained more and more strength in the last 30, 40 years as we understand being organic and being good to Mother Earth and taking care of the earth as instead of poisoning it. And so connect that to the game of lacrosse, and I'm allowed to hold a wooden stick. Most of us are playing with some sort of metal alloy, plastic head. I'm using a piece of a tree. I'm using a part of nature. This is the way the sticks were originally designed and made up until about 50 years ago. And so I've got a connection to the spirits. I've got a connection to the history of the game, to the Native American origins of it. And to express that, to share that with my team and to have it in my hands is not only liberating, but hopefully opening and reminding everyone to where this game came from, and to play with that spirit of the roots, that this game was built to develop men to be warriors, to be better men, to be champions. And this game was not meant to be slowed down, to be passive. This is meant to be aggressive, to be physical, to be a battle. When the game's over, we shake hands, respect, but for those couple hours, we're getting after it.
Absolutely, getting after it indeed. So much so that Wayne
Suiting up.
Gretzky said recently that he had to quit lacrosse because it was too much for him. He decided to level down to hockey. But you know what? The battle continues this weekend. The men's lacrosse Final Four. Wishing you and the Virginia Cavaliers so much luck and success. Virginia men's lacrosse head coach Lars, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Reed, and thank you, Amani.
Such a treat, such a pleasure to speak. Proud of the 315 coming from Syracuse all the way to Virginia, bringing these Cavaliers in to face Notre Dame this weekend.
Amani's ready.
I'm fired
Anyone
up.
is coming back as a Cavalier.
ready.
Go.
He says,
You know?
get the Wolverines. I'm coming back as a Cavalier, baby.
Grab your cross, get some top ched. Let's go. Let's send it. The
Yeah.
men's Final Four
He was
begins
so-
this weekend. He was passionate.
He was great. And what I love about that, especially coming from Hawaii and talking about sports that are spiritual, surfing is exactly the same. So I love that part of it. I was so happy when he talked about that. I was excited to ask that question.
Yeah, and especially seeing like the authentic joy and pride for not just the sport, but the origin of the sport and the respect to where it comes from as well. Men's Lacrosse Final Four underway this weekend. You don't want to miss it. We've got more coming your way on Bonjour Sports Talk, live on Prime Video and on AMP. Madeline Burke, Reed Fowler, and Amani Toomer. Stay with us. We've got more after this.